Okay, recently I switched over to the dark side and picked up an iPhone Air just to see what all the hype's about. I mean, I wasn't really sure what to expect too, because online I was seeing so many different opinions. People either loved it or completely hated it, and there was no in between, and it's really easy to see why. Now, I've been an Android guy pretty much all my life, and after making the switch, I've got to say, I actually really enjoyed carrying it around, even with it having some glaring caveats that I'll get into. First off, addressing the elephant in the room, at just 5.6 millimeters, this is the thinnest lab style phone that I've ever used. And it's super light too, at just 165 grams. It almost feels like you're just holding the screen itself. I mean, almost. I've read online too somewhere that it's even thinner than a regular number 2 pencil, which is pretty insane. And on top of that, it's even slimmer and lighter than the thinnest Android device that I've ever owned, the Galaxy S25 Edge. So carrying it around was great. It doesn't bulk up in your pocket. It has slightly rounded edges with a nice frosted glass back, so it feels nice in the hand. And trust me, once you turn to a phone this thin, it's really hard to turn back because pretty much every other phone now feels like a brick. Plus, the way it feels in your hand is just exceptional. It's just one of those things where not a single video or amount of words can fully capture how it actually feels to hold a phone that's that thin. And believe it or not, that thin, light, rounded edge design actually made this 6.5-inch screen a bit easier to hold with one hand. So even though I don't really think that the thinness of a phone should really be your overall determining factor as to why you should buy it, I can still see the appeal. It's just a really nice phone to hold and carry. The only thing I was worried about was if it would bend the moment I accidentally sat on it or something. But surprisingly, it's not that flimsy at all. It's quite the opposite, actually. Since Apple is now using a polished titanium frame on it, it felt pretty solid and stiff. Plus, I'm sure you've seen all those bend tests on the internet. Everyone's trying to snap it in half with their hands, but no one's been able to do it. It's just a powerful phone, which is great. They also redesigned the camera bump to try to make it as flush as possible with the body. It obviously still sticks out, but hey, the camera parts had to go somewhere. To be honest, it kind of reminds me a lot of the Google Pixels, but I don't mind it if Apple copied Google's homework a little bit because I really love that camera bar look. In Apple's case, I think they did a really good job of making it look more minimal that feels, well, Apple-like. Now as for the display, it's excellent. It's smooth, sharp, colorful, and man, it's bright. It's got the same max brightness treatment as the Pro models, so it's fantastic outdoors. It might not be called a Pro phone, but it's got a Pro level display for sure. It's also got this tougher ceramic shield glass too, and for the first time on an iPhone, an anti-reflective coating. It does help with glare, but it's not as anti-reflective as something like the Galaxy S25 Ultra or even the S24 Ultra, but still, it's a step in the right direction. I just wish more phones had this in their screens. Now for the not so good part, the speakers, or should I say speaker. There's no stereo setup here, no bottom firing speaker at all. All that sound comes from the earpiece at the top. To be honest, it doesn't sound terrible, but it's not great either. It doesn't get very loud, it sounds a little tiny, and sometimes when watching a video in landscape, it is kind of weird having all that sound come from one side in the earpiece. It works, but that's about it. As for the buttons, I did find their placement to be in a nice, perfect spot for my fingers to reach easily. The action button is nice to have too. I usually have it set to change the ringer mode, but sometimes I like switching it to activate something like Google Gemini. The only thing that I didn't get was the camera control key. To be honest, that was completely useless to me. Now, even though this phone is super thin and surprisingly durable, I still didn't trust myself to carry it around without a case. I mean, let's be real, one drop and that frosted glass on the back, it's done for. So I got this beast of a case from our friends and sponsor at Dbrand called the Tank. First off, I mean, just look at it. It looks like something out of this world. Plus, it lives up to the name. It's ridiculously strong and grippy, so I actually feel safe taking this thing outside. And it still keeps that thin look, so it doesn't feel like you're carrying around something bulky. It also still works with MagSafe too, so don't worry there. And the buttons are even modular, so you can swap in different colors, which is nice. Now, if the Tank is a little too intense for you, check out their Ghost Case 2.0. It's clear, so you can actually see the color of your iPhone Air. And get this, Dbrand even says that it will never turn yellow, which is unlike most clear cases out there, which is great. To top it off, I threw on their Prism 2.0 screen protector. The installation kit is completely idiot-proof. I mean, it was super easy to put on, and it even comes with an extra one just in case you end up breaking the first one. The glass is everything you'd want too, scratch proof, a perfect edge-to-edge fit, and it doesn't pick up fingerprints. If you're interested, head to dbrand.com/HowToMen. I'll leave a link in the description too. Plus, here's a sweet deal. If you bundle the Prism screen protector with any case, the tank, the Ghost, or even the grip, you get 42% off the whole thing. Not bad. Okay, now when it comes to the software on the iPhone Air, I really had to wrap my head around it because iOS is just a whole different world from Android. Well, except for ColorOS. I'm just kidding. All right, so as an Android guy, I've got to give credit where it's due. I mean, there's a lot to like about iPhone software. The customization is actually pretty solid. Like, the lock screen has this smart clock that tucks itself behind you in a photo, and you can create these spatial scenes that turn any regular photo into a cool 3D effect. I've always loved that you can also save different home screen and lock screen setups and tie them to your focus modes, so that way you can have different home screens when you're at work or maybe when you get home. And the Shortcuts app is crazy powerful too. I've got one that lets me jump straight into the app settings right from the control center, which is super handy. There are other perks too. The selection of high quality third-party apps is just sometimes even better than on Android. The dynamic island is also a neat little feature to have, and there are small but nice touches like better options when you long press apps like YouTube and X. I also like that they improved the notifications, like you can prioritize ones, and on top of that you can summarize others when the group chat is blowing up. Plus with phone calls, they finally added some great features like hold assist and call screening, two features I've been using on my Pixel for years. But honestly, as an Android user, there are some frustrations that I just can't get past. The biggest one is that there's still no universal back gesture. Having to swipe from the left edge to go back is an ancient system, and it's still incredibly inconsistent throughout various apps. Plus, iOS is still extremely bad with multitasking. Like, there's no split screen mode. On top of that, Apple is super strict about apps running in the background to the point where you have to stay within an app just to download or upload any files much more quickly. There's also no clipboard history as well, so you can't see what you copied, and picture-in-picture mode is also super limited. And don't even get me started on Apple Intelligence. A few weeks ago, I did a video comparison between the iPhone 17 Pro Max and the Pixel 10 Pro XL, which I'll leave in the cards. And in that video, I did a deep dive comparison of Apple Intelligence against Google Gemini, and long story short, Apple's AI couldn't keep up in almost every aspect, and is still nowhere near what they promised at their keynote last year. I mean, sure, they have some AI features that are actually decent, but they're nowhere near as good as Google's AI models. I always find myself switching over to Google Gemini because it's miles ahead of Siri at pretty much everything, as of right now. Apple's built-in smarts still have a long way to go to catch up with what you get on Android. Plus, I won't lie, there were just so many quality of life features on other Androids too. Take the Google Pixel for example. On that phone, you can just edit any photo by just typing out a sentence like, remove these bystanders, or on top of that, you can add clouds to the sky, and it'll do it. Or when you're on a phone call with customer support, it'll immediately bring up tedious information found within an email when you really need it the most. Or even when you're out and you hear a song playing around you and you want to know what it is, it'll just show you the song name and artist right on your lock screen without you needing to do anything. Or even when the alarm goes off or someone's calling you, you can just tell it to stop or answer without even picking up the phone. So yeah, a lot of smart features there. Then on the customization side of things, it's still incredibly hard to top what you can do on Android, especially on a Samsung device with the addition of the Good Lock app, making way for a more in-depth and granular customization experience, all things that I miss when I'm using an iPhone. So in the real world, when it comes to a phone being smart, useful, and having the capability of being more personalized, I don't mean to sound like an Android fanboy here, but I did find Apple's competitors to provide just better quality of life features. Now when it comes to performance, this is where I think a lot of Android manufacturers could actually learn a thing or two from Apple. The iPhone Air is running the new A19 Pro chip. It's missing one GPU core, but it's still an absolute beast. Whether I was gaming or editing 4K video, it handled everything you'd expect without breaking a sweat. And here's the thing, Apple really knows how to optimize its software to get the most out of their chipsets. That's why sometimes animations just feel more fluid and buttery smooth than what you get on most Androids. Google is actually one of the other few OEMs too that I commend, because even though their Pixels don't have the most powerful chipsets on the market, their OS still flies and feels buttery smooth as well. Rarely do I ever find stutter when navigating that OS, just because of how well they optimized it to take full advantage of that tensor chip. Now, with that said, on the iPhone Air, with it being so thin and not having a vapor chamber like the Pros do, what I was really curious about was the heat. Well, so far in my experience, while the phone has gotten very warm under heavy load, especially up top, it hasn't been to a concerning degree yet, and it definitely hasn't gotten uncomfortably hot to the point where I can't use it. If you're a heavy user, especially if you're in a hotter climate, chances are you'll experience some throttling. For me, it didn't really have that problem as of now. Probably the biggest concern was battery life. The thin form factor and the 3,149 mAh capacity has a lot of people understandably worried. Now, I'm sure Apple managed to work in some aggressive efficiency optimizations here, and so far, I'm surprisingly getting around 6 hours and more of screen on time with mixed usage, and on lighter days, I could push it even further. And of course, your mileage may vary too, so just keep that in mind. Your results could be different from mine, but I do consider myself to be a pretty heavy user. Now at first, I felt as though I needed to babysit my battery because I wasn't sure if it would die fast. But as I slowly began to discover, that wasn't as necessary as I thought. After a while, I was able to use this phone like I normally would, a little bit more comfortably. But to be fair, on days with heavy use, I absolutely had to end up charging significantly earlier in the day than with most other phones, and in no way would this ever be a 2-day battery for me personally. But all in all, for general daily tasks, there's genuine potential for most users to be able to squeeze out a full day on a single charge. My only real long-term worry is how the battery and the performance is going to hold up over time. I mean, when that battery health percentage starts to drop, the hit to its performance could be harder than what I may be used to on a phone with a bigger cell. And Apple is clearly counting on results not being up to snuff because they literally made a $100 MagSafe power bank specifically for this phone, which I found to be hilarious, mainly because its capacity is the exact same as the phone's own battery. And again, it's $100. Classic Apple. Now, when it comes to charging, there's something special here too. With 20 watt wire charging, you can get to 50% in about half an hour, which is fine. I mean, it's a small battery, so it charges somewhat fast, but come on, Apple. I mean, we do want those faster charging speeds. Plus, it has USB-C 2.0 in 2025. That's also not a good look. Now for the cameras, I get it. They had to cut corners to make this thing so thin, but let's be real. A single camera lens on a $1,000 phone in 2025 is a really tough pill to swallow. It's kind of crazy too, because the Galaxy S25 Edge is almost as thin, plus it has an extra ultra-wide camera, stereo speakers, and a vapor chamber. So Apple, what gives? Anyway, that said, the photos from that single camera are actually still great. It's basically the same main camera as the iPhone 17, so I can't really complain about the quality. You're just, again, missing out on a lot of versatility, which most other phones, including budget ones, will beat you out on with the telephoto and ultra-wide options. In general though, photos and videos do come out looking nice. It'll especially get the job done for casual users. And the selfie camera is kind of the star of the show here because, as most of you have heard, it's using a square sensor, meaning it allows you to go from portrait to landscape without having to physically rotate your phone. I mean, it's a really nice feature to have when taking group selfies or when you're creating content on the go. Plus, photos and videos turn out better because you're not going to lose out on any detail when switching frames. And the camera stays centered too, instead of dropping off to the side like when you rotate the phone. The only thing I will say though is that I do wish it had a higher megapixel count, because at 18 megapixels, the photos don't come out looking as detailed as, say, something like the Pixel 10 Pro XL. Oh, and there's also now a new dual capture mode that lets you record from both the front and rear cameras simultaneously. Well, some Android phones like Samsung and Oppo have had this feature for years. So the iPhone Air, what's the verdict? Well, it's a good phone in its own way. It's not trying to be the Pro model or even the standard iPhone. It feels experimental, and I like it when companies try new things. The only problem is that it's just hard to figure out who this phone is actually for, which makes it almost impossible to outright recommend. I personally won't be keeping this phone just because the trade-offs are a little too much for me. Look, I'll be the first to admit I fell in love with the design. Carrying this thing around is an absolute pleasure. It's so thin and light that it genuinely ruins some other phones for me. And the performance is a beast too, just like you'd expect from Apple. But at the end of the day, the compromises just keep adding up. I mean, that single speaker is a real bummer for watching media. The software, while powerful, still has some frustrating limitations that I can't ignore as an Android user. And while the battery life surprised me, I'm always going to be nervous about its long-term health. When you combine all that with a $1,000 price tag and it only comes with one camera lens, it just feels like you're paying a premium to make a lot of sacrifices. For that same money, I mean, you can get a phone that does so much more. So the iPhone Air is a fascinating piece of tech, but for now, it feels more like a proof of concept, a stunningly beautiful what if, than a phone I can confidently tell someone to go out and buy. Either way, that's my review of the iPhone Air. Let me know what you think in the comments. Tap on this video too to watch a comparison between the iPhone 17 Pro Max and the Pixel 10 Pro XL, or this video where I go over the top tech you'd actually want to buy. Thanks for sticking around to the end. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed this review, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Kapow!